What's up guys, Brooksy99 here. Today I'm going to be making a video showing you how to install tags and layers, how to use them, how to download and install EasyDays SDK, how to make grinds with the SDK, and also how to build your map with the SDK. So I have a simple scene with some unique objects just for the purposes of showing you how to spline them. First things first, let's install our tags. To do this, we're going to go to the modern Discord. Any channel will work. I'm going to type exclamation point, tags, press enter, and ignore the warning from Skatebot. Go to the Nightbot link, and then I'm going to download the tags and layers preset. Now, in Unity, I'm going to open File Explorer to my downloads. You can see I already have this downloaded. So I drag one into my project. To use it, I'm going to click on an object. Let's select this ground. Up on the layers, click on the drop down. You can see that's the default layer, so we're going to go to add layer. Now, we don't want to type them out, that's the whole point of having this preset. This little icon here next to the gear icon, a couple of sliders, hit that, and it will give us one to choose. This is our downloads, we'll click on that, and as you can see, it's filled up the layers for us. So, let's click back on the ground. Right, we want to give this the sound tag bricks because the ground has a brick pavier material. So to do that, I'm going to go to tags. I'm going to click the drop down, and I'm going to see down here you've got a surface brick. You can see the other surfaces. We've got concrete, brick, wood, tarmac, concrete. That's right, auto revert concrete, auto pump and revert concrete, and surface grass. So all of these are different sounds. The auto revert concrete and the auto pump concrete will have a concrete sound. The auto revert concrete would be used on transition, mainly bigger ramps, and what it does, if you're spinning in the air and you land back on the ramp and you're not aiming down the ramp, you're aiming say to an angle, this will straighten the skater for you, will allow you to keep speed, which is what is required when you're trying to skate vert in the game. Auto pump and revert, exactly the same, except it allows the skater to automatically pump when he goes up and down transition. This tag, or these ones up here, the ones without the concrete, these are the wooden versions. These are a must on vert ramp. I don't care what people say, you don't need it, you can pump in game. The pumping in game is so unpredictable. These will always pump at the right time. But let's select the brick sound anyway, because that's what we want. Now when we skate up this, it will sound like brick. Next thing we need to do is we need to add our spawn point. So I'm just going to go to my hierarchy, right click, create empty. And there's our empty. I like to zero it first, so click on that, reset. I'll move it across. Now if we spawn in here, we're going to spawn into the floor, so let's lift it up by just a bit. That's probably more than enough. We need to name this, so you can right click and hit rename, or if you've got an object highlighted, just press F2 on your keyboard. I'm going to name it spawn point, but we need a capital S and a capital P. Once it's selected, we're going to go to the tags and we're going to select spawn point. Now, when you spawn into the game, this will be the location you spawn, and you'll be facing whichever way this arrow's facing. So let's say we want to make it face the other way. You can select the rotate tool up there. I like to keep mine even, so I'm going to click on the Y axis and we'll type 180, and you can see it didn't rotate. Why is that? That's because I've got this set to global, so I want to rotate it locally. So I'm going to click on local. I'm going to come back here, 180, and there you go, you can see it rotated. Now we want to install EasyDays SDK. To do this, we're going to go back to the modern Discord and write exclamation point SDK. And this takes you to a link I created. I'm going to click on it. Takes you to Google. This is some instructions for how to add movable objects to EasyDays map editor, which they removed from the game, but it also contains a link to their SDK. It says down here that link here is what we want, so we click on that link, go here. Now there's two packages here, the SXL SDK and example. The examples are objects for the map editor from EasyDay, so some of the ones that you'll find in the game, really just to show you how they set them up. We don't need that. We only need this one. You can't download both of these at the same time, because if you do that, Google packs them weird and you can't extract them properly, so we're just going to do, if you want both of them, I don't know why you would, but if you do them separately. So I'm just going to click on this one, hit download, and it's down to scan for viruses, and it'll be downloaded into your downloads. Going back, it says required packages. These packages are required for the SDK to work. You can get away without using one of them, I believe, but most of them are needed, especially if you want to do other things with the SDK later on. Let's install these packages. We start with Addressables 1.8.5. So we're going to go back to Unity, and click on Window, Packet Manager, wait for it to load. Make sure you're on all packages, and up in the search bar, I'm going to put Addressables. It's on 1.8.5, install. Wait for it to install, it may take a few seconds. That's that one. Now the next package we need is Burst 1.3.0. Burst. There's Burst, but as you can see it's 1.2.3, we don't need that one. So we need to click on this little arrow and it gives us a drop down. See all versions and find 1.3.0. There it is, we select that one, hit install. Next one we need is High Definition Render Pipeline 7.4.1. So let's do HD. That won't work, it has to be high. So we're currently on 7.3.1, so we go to the drop down, see all versions, that's the one we want. Update. This may take a little bit of time. Okay, so that took about 5 minutes to update. The last package we need is Editor Coroutines 1.0. Select it, install. And there we have the packages installed. Now we want to bring in our package we downloaded, which was the actual SDK itself, so downloads. You can see it says one next to mine, that's because I've installed it numerous times, or downloaded it numerous times today. Now, there's one thing I should say. If you use Quixel Bridge to install materials into your project, what you need to do with this is have Quixel Bridge installed first, and when it comes to installing this SDK, you want to make sure the Newtonsoft JSON DLLs are not selected, because if you do that, it will mess with Quixel Bridge, because Quixel Bridge already has Newtonsoft with it. But I don't have Quixel Bridge in here, so I'm going to install it. So import packages, and there we go. You can see it's added the SkaterXL folder down here. In plugins, there's a lot of scripts. We'll make a video in the future covering some of these scripts. These scripts here, these are for the map editor, and also if you want to add unique things to your map, turn on and off props, stuff like that. What you would also see though is at the top of the screen, it's added a new option called Tools. If you click on that, SkaterXL Tools. If you click on this, it'll open a window, and this is our tool for creating grinds. We'll cover this in a minute. Okay, so let's get started with our first grind. Let's start with this simple ledge. To do this, I'm going to select the ledge. I'm going to go to Tools, SkaterXL. Now you can dock the tools somewhere like up here and keep them open. Personally, I like to only open it when I need it. But now I've got this selected, go back to Tools, open it up. And we have shortcuts up here, so it says Find Grindable unselected, Shift G. You can use the shortcuts. Personally, I like to use the menu. I'm going to start by Analyze Mesh on selected objects. You can see it's found 4 grindable edges. The white balls represent where grind splines will be if we make the grindables. We don't really want to have grind splines on the end of this ledge, so I'm going to deselect the balls to turn them off. Having the splines on the end here could hang us up if we're grinding along the length of the ledge. Down here it says make all concrete, make all coping. Just ignore all of this. You will see people install DreamTech into their projects. DreamTech was the old way of splining, and if you have it installed, at the top of this menu it gives you an option to say use DreamTech for splines. Do not check that box. You do not want to use DreamTech splines. DreamTech will be applied to the map when the game runs. It's built into the game. Now I've got these selected, As you can see up here, it says preview grindables by Shift V. So if you press Shift and press V, it will show you what it's going to do. I don't use this up here. You can press create grindables with Shift C. I'd rather click down here and make grindables. I can close this because I'm finished with it for now. And you can see it's added grindables small edge. This is the importance of naming your objects. I see plenty of map makers, they make all their objects in Blender and it'd be called Cube 1, Cube 2, Cube 3. Name your objects. We can see a couple of colliders added here. I click on this one and I click on the grindable edge. There you can see. That is our spline. You can see the collider, and that is the basics of a ledge. But by selecting the grindable edge, we get these options over here now. Look. So we got the material type, so it can be concrete or metal. We have friction, we can adjust the friction. This is the default. It's probably best to keep it on the default most of the time. If you've got a curved ledge, you may want to drop it right down, just because curved ledges, they can catch you out sometimes. The skater will rub against the collider underneath, which will cause issues. It will slow you down, so zero friction for that. However, if you've got an object, say like this one, which the top looks a bit gnarly, it won't grind as well as an angle iron edge. What you could do is you could up the friction, and what will happen is you will grind slower and it will stop you on the ledge, depending on how high the friction is. So that's a nice way of adding realism to your grinds. This was simple. So we've got that one, and we've got that one. These white arrows are our normals. This is the direction that the skater will stand whilst he's grinding. So obviously these want to be up because you want them to be stood up. That's that ledge splined. Let's move to another ledge. This one looks the same, sort of, at the bank, but I'm going to show you the difference with this one. So I'm going to select this object. I'm going to go to Tools, Skater XL Tools, Analyze Mesh. As you can see, it's found a grindable on that edge, down the slopes, here and here. However, it's not found one of the ledges, the one that we want to grind. So we got some settings in the menu here we can adjust. They all do different things. If you hover over them, it will tell you which each ones do. Look. So what one do we want to mess with? It can be a bit of trial and error, especially if you're not sure which one's which. Max grindable edge. Let's up that one, see what that does. Put that up there. Find grindable edges. Well, looks like it's trying to find something. Up it right up. So it's not that one. So reset settings. Minimum grind angle. Drop that one. Find grind. There we go. There's the minimum grind angle. If I brought it down, look, we've now got this. So realistically, on this, you could grind this if you wanted. I don't want to. I'm going to turn it off, which turns all that one off. We'll do the same the other end. And we've just got two grinds, one that side, one this side. Make grindables. And there we go, that's done. Let's go to the grindable edges. Picks that one there first. I set the concrete, I set it to metal. And this here you'll be able to come along, ollie up, grind across the ledge. This one here, you could ollie up and grind across it, but also we have a bank. So we would like to come up and grind across it. So we need it to be work like coping. To allow that to happen, we're going to go to our menu, allow rolling. Tick that, and now that means you can grind that just by rolling onto it rather than ollieing onto it. You can see the shape of the collider underneath. That is the shape. You can change the shapes of colliders. So with this selected, we go to the collider tool, and then we have different types of colliders. We've got a box, we've got capsule, we've got beveled box. A beveled box, to change this, you just go generate collider, and as you can see, that's no good for us because it protrudes through. So you always want to check that you put the right type of collider. That's no good, so back to the collider tool, box, generate collider. That one's too big, look, because it's sticking out. Collider tool, How about capsule? Generate colliders. The problem with that is it didn't set a radius LUT. So 0.3, that looked way too big. So 0.01, bit small. 5, that looks okay. Generate colliders, and there's the collider. We can now grind that. Next object, let's spline this. Now I do my transition different to probably any other mapper. Most mappers make their transition like this where they've got the coping and it protrudes the front face and the deck like it would IRL. The issues with this is when you come up and you grind this, your wheels can catch, make it more difficult to come back in. So I add a hidden collider. Now you can see I've just hit the collider. Here we go, look. I'll put the mesh renderer on it, you can see it. It's lined up perfectly with the coping underneath. But you can see the shape of it goes over the top of the coping. Turn this back off so you can see. And you can see the shape. It allows the wheels to ride up and over the coping. Same with the front face, it goes up and over. So your wheels are never going to come in and bang on this, it's going to roll over. You don't have to do it, but this is how I like to do mine. Let's spline it. So we need coping selected. I'm going to go to Tools, Skater XL. Let's reset these tools. Analyze mesh. And then make grindables. Now, if you look at the mesh of the colliders is added to this. You know what I mean? You're going to come up, that's all square, it's just not right. Select the grindable edge. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tag this as metal because it's a metal coping. Metal, allow rolling because we want to be able to roll up onto it. Let's fix these colliders. The collider's already set the capsule, which is what we want. If not, select it. And the radius looks a bit big to me. Let's bring this down to say 0.4. Generate colliders. And there we go. The collider is inside. Perfect. That's that object done. Okay, so let's move on to splining kinked rails. Here we have two kinked rails. They look the same. They're actually not. I'll show you why. Let me get close. Let's go on my Unity. Select that. Right, you can see the kink on this one is very sharp. Same on that one. But this one here, they're nice and rounded. You really want to be rounding the kinks just to make grinds much better. We'll spline this one first and we'll see what happens. Tools, Skater XL, make sure they're reset. Analyze mesh. So make grindables. But you can see we've got a mixture of different types of colliders, the grindable edge LUT, we've got box colliders, capsule colliders. So this is where we want to tidy it up. Box colliders are just going to catch you when you run into the faces of them. So select the grindable edge, go to our collider tool. It's set up as box at the moment, we don't want that, we want capsule. Capsule, there's no radius, so let's add a radius. Let's try 0.025. That doesn't look too bad. Let's make it metal, generate colliders. There we go, much tidier. Having the rounded edges, because the capsules just allows it to grind across better. Now this will work, but you may get caught up when you're coming down like in a nose grind. This might stop you. Because there's no curve here, you'll bounce off of this down to here. So click on this, Tools, Skater XL, Analyze Mesh, make grindables. You can see colliders are still a mess, so again we're going to click on it, click on the grindable edges. There's a few grindable edges on this one for some reason. We've got one down the bottom, there's a couple down the bottom, there's a couple up the top. Select them, delete. Alright, so this is the one we've got. We're going to change the metal, collider tool. We've got it set up from before, generate colliders. That doesn't look right, does it? What's going on here? It looks like one of these colliders is in the wrong place. Which collider is that? It's not that one. It's this one. Looks a bit long. So what we can do, select this tool. Let's slide it down a bit. There we go. Next one. Let's bring that one down. Slide them along. That one there doesn't look correct. Let's bring them down. And I think, yeah, we're all good for the rest. maybe that one slightly. There we go, grindable edge. You can see here this one's out of place, so we'll bring him down, slide him out. Right, that looks spot on. That's another one of them. So yeah, you can come in and manipulate the collider sometimes they need to, it doesn't pick up precisely. It's not an issue, it just takes a bit of time. Curved rail. Let's select this mesh, tools, get our Excel, analyze mesh. That looks spot on. Make grindables. What a mess that's made. Look at all those boxes. It's just going to catch you every time you try to grind it. We've got those, and it's made all these little tiny ones again. We don't need those. We only want the big one. Delete them. That's what we want, this one here. But let's fix the colliders. Let's make it metal, colliders, capsule, generate colliders. And there we go. They are a bit thin, you could make them bigger if you want. This is quite a fat rail. So let's try 0.05. Yeah, that looks better. Generate colliders. As you can see, all these arrows are facing up, because usually you want to be skating on top of a rail. However, this is a curved rail. If you try skating on top of this, you're going to fly off. IRL, if you were to skate around this, your body would be leaning inwards, trying to push against the side of the rail to get yourself around. We can do that with Excel by adjusting these lines. These are called normals. And to do that, we're going to select the grindable edge. And if we select spline points, see this lot, we get spline points. And if you select one, you get this adjuster here, which is called a normal. And we can adjust them. A couple of minutes to do, but it's well worth it, and I'll show you when we test this later on. We adjust this angle, you can see we're tipping it in or out. Whichever way this is tipped is the way the skate's going to lean. We want to lean inwards, so let's set this to say, yeah, maybe 30. So we've got 30 there. Now we don't want to be 30 all the way around. We want to bring this down a bit. So this one here will be 26. I'm going down in multiples of 4, so 22, 18, 14, 10, 6, 2. And we're going to do the same this one. This one's going to be, what did we start on? 30 was it? That one there was 30, I believe. Yeah, that one there was 30. This is the middle point, so I'll keep that 30 as well. And the next one, 30, and then we're going down 26, 22, 18, 14, 10, not 60, 6, 2. And there we have it. Now what will happen if we come up and we try to like board slide or lip slide this, we will lip slide all the way around, but it will tilt the skater over, which will keep us grinding around this ledge. There's rail even. Let's lower the friction because it's a very tight curve. I'm going to put it on 0 friction. We select this mesh, tools, Skater Excel, analyze mesh, make grindables. Let's not have a massive box collider all the way along it. We got that one, these little end pieces. This is just where the ends are, got a bit of a bevel to them. We don't want them. Delete. Keep the long one. Let's change the collider type. Let's change the material first. Material. Change the friction because we've got a few curves in this. Collider type, capsule, generate collider. Same as before. When it comes to the normals, we want to tilt them in different directions to help us balance all the way along the rail. Because at the moment it's going to put us on top of the rail, and that would be it. If you try to board slide this, you'll just end up getting caught. You want to be leaning left and right as you're going around these curves. I'm going to fast forward this bit whilst I set the normals up because there's a lot of normals and it's going to take a few minutes. What I should say is these normals are going to go back and forth on this one. So I will just show you the first part. 8, back to 6, back to 4, 2, 0's fine on that one. Now we want to tilt back the other way, so we're going to need to go -2, -4, minus 8, minus 8, minus 4, minus 2, 0's right on that one. Now we're back to plus, good, we'll go back the other way, 2, 4. Okay, there we have it. We have normals just tilt one way on the rail, and when it goes back the other way it swings back around, and then so on, back and forth, just to make you lean. And that's how that's done. This object here, this is what would be a prefab. You would place a number of these around your map. This hasn't got a collider on it. Most people, they would add a mesh collider, so add component, mesh collider. The issue with the mesh collider on this is like from a 3D scan. If you turn off the mesh render, you can see the collider. Look at how messy that collider is. Trying to spline that will be a nightmare. But also it's not very good for performance. You want to make a custom collider in Blender. It's easy enough to model a simple collider for that. However, let's try to spline this. So I've got it selected. Tools, Analyze Mesh. You can see it's taking ages to analyze. And you can see it's all a bit of a mess. And that's because it has no idea what to spline. Because the mesh is all triangles, it's all a mess. We want a simple collider. So what we can do, we're going to select this, remove the mesh collider off of it. I'm going to right click in here, 3D object, cube, find my cube, there it is. Let's find our graph, let's copy this component, copy in the transforms, paste the component values on, gets this roughly in the right place. Now I can bring this up to the right height, scale it out so it's the right length, bring it up slightly just so we can't see the top, scale in on the Y. Let's make that a child of that. We don't want to see the mesh renderer, so we turn that off. We've got a box collider, so we know we're colliding this object. And I want to spline this box, not the actual thing. And select that object, Tools, Cater Excel, reset the settings, Analyze Mesh. Straight away, look, I found it. Make grindables. And that one there is perfect. It's made one grindable. Select the grindable edge. You can see it's not centered properly. You can change that by going to Collider, Offset. We want to offset on the X. Let's stick with a box for this one. Generate colliders. Nice big fat box. We want it on concrete. The friction we're going to up slightly because it's a very rough looking object. We want to slow down whilst we're grinding it. This looks like, again, I'm splined it like everything else. However, we want to copy and paste this object. So what I'm going to do, move the grindable cube, which is our grind for this. I'm going to go to the actual object itself and I'm going to make it a child of. Now when I move this, you can see the grinds have come with it. This is a prefab. I can Control D to make a copy, move it, and it's already splined. Don't have to come along and spline it multiple times. I've splined it once and it's a child. This is also how you would make objects for the map editor. You want to have your grinds a child of the object. Same for Excel object dropper. This ledge, I've added this because somebody said that you can't tail slide curved ledges. Grind tool doesn't make the spline properly. You need to cut parts of the mesh out, have it separated so there's no faces here. Got to do a lot of planning to make it work. I beg to differ. I think the grind tool does a perfect job. So let's have a look. This is the mesh. One of the key points is to make sure you've got enough polys so that it's a nice curve. You know, we're not making Roblox maps. You don't want to be seeing the blockiness all the way around, especially for an object like this which needs to be smooth. So make sure you have enough polys. You can see how many it is. I would say I add a mesh renderer to it, a mesh collider, and turn the mesh renderer off to show you. But I've made a collider, which I will turn on now. it has a mesh render on it. Now, the reason why I've added a collider is because I don't want to have the extra verts from the coping on it. I just want this simple one. Hide that one. Right, so let's put the spline on this one. So analyze the mesh. We don't want the end one. We're never going to be grinding that. We just want these two. Let's make grindables. Let's not make it box colliders. Box colliders give you faces that you're going to hit. If you've got a straight grind, box collider's fine. But when you've got curves and you're meeting other ones, you don't want to be clumping into it. So let's choose the edge. Metal, friction. This is a severe curved ledge. So we definitely don't want no friction on it. And we've got the collider tool. It's set as box, and you can see it's a bit big. So let's put it to capsule. That's what we want. 0.5 isn't too bad. You can see if I was to generate this here, the collider's going to be hanging off the edge for most of it. So we can use our offset tool. Offset, we don't want to go that way, we want to go out. You can see it offsets it perfectly. Generate colliders. So we have a nice collider all the way around there. The outside one, we could change it if we want. No one's really going to be grinding the outside of a curved ledge though. But let's do it anyway. Metal, no friction. Capsule collider, generate colliders. What you will need to remember is the offset tool may need to be reset. What I do want to do though, same as before, we're going to start tipping our normals around. You've seen me do this already. They're all going to be tipping inwards. They're going to start at a small tip, small tilt, and gradually build up the more you go round. And then once we get to the middle point, we're going to decrease it and start coming back out. So I will do that off camera. Okay, so all those normals have been adjusted. You can see it starts from 0 here, and then it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, until we reach 16, or minus 16 in this case. And then once I get to minus 16, I'll start this side, minus 2, minus 4, minus 6, so on, up until minus 16. Then the rest in here are minus 16, and they just tilt you inwards just slightly, as you can see. Don't have to be too much, but just enough to help tip the skater and keep him on the ledge. If they're up dead straight, there's a good chance you're going to skip across the top as you go around this bend. And you can see those colliders are very tidy. This is the mesh. This has a mesh collider on it still. People say you shouldn't have them on there. It will work absolutely fine. There's no cutting out this edge, which I see some people do. They will select the part of this part where the grind is supposed to be and cut it away. There's no need for it. This will work perfect. So I'm going to turn off the mesh renderer because we don't want to see that. And turn back on the ledge, which is in place. This has no collider. That'll be perfectly grindable in game. Let's do this planter. This planter, we analyse the mesh on this. So you can see it's found grindable edges. We could hop up onto the bench, grind this ledge all the way around. Same on the insides. We've got the outsides. Now if I was to make this grindables, doesn't look too bad. The issue you're going to have, if I was to try grinding this bench, when it gets to the corner, it's going to try grinding around the corner and along there. The issue you have with corners like this is when you grind along here, your trucks are going to catch this square collider on the edge from that side. So we can't spline this object in one piece. So I'm going to delete the splines that we just made. And you'll see what I did in Blender. I chopped my mesh up into sections. Let's turn the planter off and turn on the first part. That's the first bench. That's one of the top ledges. Bottom bench, top ledges. I'm going to spline these parts rather than the actual planter itself. Okay, so let's get to splining this. I've got a mesh selected, tools, Skater XL, analyze mesh. It's only found the outside edge. If you did want to do the inside edge, just make sure that your mesh in Blender comes down slightly. I'm not really worried about doing the inside edge. Make grindables, grindable edge. Because it's currently a box collider, I want to make it capsule, concrete's right, goes that one. Generate colliders, that's that one done. Do the other edge. A box collider would work, but I'm doing a capsule instead, just because when I do the ones going along this edge here, you've got the round edge at the end, so hopefully it's less chance of catching. We need the next mesh, tools, make grindables. You can turn these off. You could delete them once you've done. I'm just going to turn them off. Let's crack on with these ones. So we could get rid of that part, I imagine, if we do minimum end piece, is it? End piece length. Let's try that, find grindables. There we go. So all I did was increase the minimum end piece. We got rid of that. Make grindables. These ones here can stay as boxes because you're not going to run into each other. So I will leave those as boxes. Let's do this one. And that's them done. So let's find these mesh. Off. Off. Turn our planter back on. So that's that one set up. It has a mesh collider on it so we can grind it. Okay, so it's time to spline this up and down rail. Now I have heard that up and down rails don't work with the SDK properly. You can't slide them, you can grind them, but slides don't work. I think if you spline them correctly, they will work. Let's select the mesh, tools, reset, analyze mesh. And it looks like it's picked it up quite well. Should just make grindables, it'd be fine. That doesn't look too good, does it? So let's delete that. Control Z to delete. So we need to do some adjustments. I know what the adjustment is we need to do. First of all, we're going to make the minimum grind length smaller. Get it in view. We want it to be just under 10 centimeters. Find grindable edges. You can kind of see there's like a red issues here, so I know this is not going to work. Make grindables, and it's still broke. The reason why this is the SDK is getting confused with the up and down of the curves. So we need to adjust one of these sliders. The max edge distance on the Y. It's the Y because that's the axis. It's going up. The axis is going up and down. Just bring it down a bit. Find grindables. Oh, you see that? Fixed part of it there. Well, that's looking a bit better, but it still doesn't look right. Control Z. Bring it down even more. Find grindables. It's looking a bit better. Let's see if we can clean up a bit more. That looks a lot better. Make grindables. Obviously we don't want the cubes as we've already figured out. So let's change the collider type. So that's the one we want. We don't need the two end pieces. We have two here for some reason. Three actually. So let's get rid of these ones. Let's change the collider type. This looks like about right for the size. But the collider seems to be in the mesh a bit. So if we use the offset tool up on the Y lat, we can move it. Generate colliders. We have a perfect collider for that rail. Last thing we need to spline on there is this rail here. Obviously you would never have a rail like this in your map. Well, you might, I suppose. This is more about figuring out how to spline an angle like this. Reset our settings first. Analyze mesh. You see we're getting a bit of an issue here. It's selecting what we want, but not this bar. That's to do with the angle. Max grind up angle is 60. Is it that one? Let's up that, see what happens. So it's not that one. Maximum grind edge angle. Let's up that. There we go. See what happens if we make the grind. It's a little bit messy there. Minimum grind length. Let's shrink that down. Still doesn't look right. Let's adjust this. That looks a bit better. Try a bit more. There we go. Perfect. Obviously we change the collider type again. We want that one, or that one's a question. Delete these. Only want the one. Collider. Collider set too high. So adjust the offset. Go, generate colliders. Perfect. Now that we've got everything splined, we want to export this into game so we can test it. First, what we've got to do is we need to save our scene. We'll change this from sample scene. File, save as. This is in my assets folder. I'm going to change this to grind tutorial. Save. And it's down there. Let's open the Skater XL tools. This time I'm going to go down to map build, and you can see we've got nothing here. So we want to do create new config. which is grind tutorial. It's found this scene, that's what we want. Bundle name, so that's the name of it, the scene name, and our version. Build options, so we want chunk based compression, and then we can just hit build. But before we do that, we're going to click on check for broken colliders. And if you click on that, it says no broken colliders found. Now if you click it sometimes and it's got an error, you can click on your console and it'll show you, and what it'll do, it'll have a broken collider. You can click on the collider to show you which one it is in your grindables. So you open it, go to the grindable ledge, remake the collider. Once the collider's made, check again with that and it should be good to go. Now I've got this set up so if I build the map, it goes straight into my maps folder. Look, you can change it directly there. And then we're good to go. Click build. The map will take a few seconds to build. It's now ready to try out in game. Okay then guys, let's give these splines a test, shall we? So go to your maps folder, community maps, go down and find where your map is. So mine's grind tutorial volume 1. The reason why there's 2 is this top one is the actual map folder, map file, sorry. And this bottom one is the map file manifest, which is just a file that gets made when you build a map. You can go to your maps folder and delete the manifest and it will remove it from this list. So let's click on the map. I should warn you that I am very bad at this game, so please bear with me. Let's try this simple edge first. That works pretty well. This planter works right, you grind around the edge. The Andy Anderson rail. The silly rail that's ungrindable. It's because it's too steep, so the nose of the deck hits it. I'm sure it would slide up a certain way, but as you can see, it's too steep for the skater to adjust his weight properly. Kink rail. The little prefabs. They seem to work okay. Try the other one. Let's try this curved ledge, the one that people say can't be back-tailed. More of a back-tail in the Smith. Back-tail this ledge. The up and down rail. We know these grind apparently, but people say you can't slide them. Looks like it slides to me. The bump outs I'm coping on this latest version of the game are the best it's ever been. Last but not least, curved rail. As you can see, everything works as it should. And that's about it for me. I hope I covered everything and people could follow along with this tutorial. It may be a bit long, but it does go in depth to cover everything needed to spline any object. So until next time,